Alright guys, so today we're going to be reading this book and it is titled Brown Bear, What Do You See? And it is written by Bill Martin Jr. and Eric Carle. Written by Bill Martin Jr. and illustrated by Eric Carle. Brown Bear, what do you see? I see a red bird and it's looking at me. Red bird, what do you see? I see a yellow duck and it's looking at me. Yellow duck, what do you see? I see a blue horse and it's looking at me. Blue horse, what do you see? I see a green frog and it's looking at me. Green frog, what do you see? I see a purple cat and it's looking at me. Purple cat, what do you see? I see a white dog and it's looking at me. White dog, what do you see? I saw a black sheep and it's looking at me. Black sheep, what do you see? I see a goldfish and it's looking at me. Can you guys see the picture? Goldfish, what do you see? I see a teacher looking at me. And there's the picture for the goldfish. Teacher, what do you see? I see a bunch of children looking at me. Children, what do you see? We see a brown bear, a red bird, a yellow duck, a blue horse, a green frog, a purple cat, a white dog, a black sheep, a goldfish, and a teacher looking at us. That is what we see. And that is the end of the book. The children's book that I selected is titled Brown Bear, What Do You See? And it is written by Bill Martin Jr. and illustrated by Eric Carle. I chose this book because when I was growing up, this was one of the first books that I learned to read by myself. And when my mom gave birth to my first little sister, I read this book to her. This book appeals to students on the early childhood level of guided reading and is most appropriate for this level of guided reading because of the sing-song text that also includes rhyming, repetition, and the colorful texture collages that aids in keeping the younger students actively engaged. This story also increases comprehension skills through repetitions as you, the teacher, read along because as you identify each different colored animal, your students will remember them all. A pre-reading activity that could be used for this book is Pictionary. For instance, before the students begin reading, I will select keywords from the text and then split my students into groups of 3. The students will then select one member from each group to represent them at the whiteboard. I will then tell each member from the group a keyword and they will have to draw their own representation of the word, and then as a group they will use the picture to connect with what they believe the story is going to be about. For instance, if my first keyword was green frog, I would expect the students at the board to draw a green frog while the students at the tables decide as a group why they think the green frog might be in the story. A during reading activity that could be used for this book is sticky notes. The students will utilize their sticky notes for either questions or thoughts they may have as I'm reading. For example, while I read, I will stop between every 2 pages to see what their thoughts or questions might be as they are following along. An after reading activity that could be used for this book is called Roll and Retell. For this game, students will have needed to finish the book, whether it was on their own or with me during the read aloud. They would use a dice to roll, and depending on what number they get, they will answer a question regarding the text. For example, if a student rolls the dice and gets a 1, they will have to retell the story to the class. And if they roll the dice and get a 5, they will have to say what characters they remember from the story. And if they roll the dice and get a 3, they will have to give their opinion on what they believe took place in the story. Some common core standards that go along with this book is CCSS.ELA Literacy RLK 7 with prompting and support. Describe the relationship between the illustrations and the story in which they appear. CCSS.ELA.literacy.RL.K/2 with prompting and support, retell familiar stories, including key detail. And lastly, CCSS.ELA.literacy.RL/1 with prompting and support, ask and answer questions about key details in the text, also go along with this book.